Hey yo, it's the Wisdom, the abbot of the Wu-Tang Clan, and you're watching Galighticus.
Don't leave. Get my phone going. Come back, man. Take that ride.
Here we are. I can switch it up. Okay, so I'm glad that you guys are back with me. Indeed. What I would like to do is I'm gonna take this off because it's way too powerful. Has a lot of power, and it's like Moldavite times 10. It's ridiculous. It's always great to talk to the new people who have never been at a Galighticus seminar before, and watching the people trying to process the information. Sometimes it looks like I could see the people's eyes darting back and forth in their head because they're like, I've never heard of this, and I've read so many books, and I've gone to church 40 years, and I've been meditating, but I've never heard of any of these things. I've researched it on Wikipedia, and I couldn't find it. And a lot of what I teach is not researchable on the World Wide Web. And as I've said before, if you can put what the universe in its entirety has to offer, less than 5% of it is actually encapsulated in a relative, coherent, truthful way. So don't depend too much on running to YouTube, Google, or search engines for the things that you want to get validated. Okay? So this is a really, really wonderful incense. I love this aroma. There's nothing like heightening the frequency of your environment. And when you light incense on a regular basis, it invites harmonious spirits into your home. It also pushes away negative energy. This is the reason why people burn certain kinds of incense. It's a beautiful thing. So tonight I wanted to I put a post on my Facebook page, and I wanted to answer 7 of your questions. I love to answer questions, especially if it brings clarity to the people who ask them. It's a beautiful thing. So the things that I teach in the Angels, Gods, and Altars seminar is a compendium of years and years worth of application, success, and gnosis. These are questions that I have asked directly from the forces of the universe themselves. Some of these forces are known as gods. Some of these forces are exalted beings. Some of these forces are not beings at all, but they are intelligent modes of consciousness that have the ability to transfer data, a large system of data, into streams of consciousness. And if you know how to tap into it, you can get quite a bit. The sequence of power are intelligent life forms that don't lend themselves to lower behavior or frequency. So when people hear me say that it is really important that you be completely aware of your behavior, your language, your thoughts, your actions, in order to get the very best result of how to manipulate your reality, it's really no different from putting on a white suit. And if you wear a white suit and brand new white shoes or sneakers, you're going to be really vigilant, and you have to be careful about not letting it get soiled, because it's very easy for dirt to show up on your garment. It's really no different when you are interfacing with a very, very pristine energy that has the power to overturn the limits that you live with day in and day out. This is the reason why it calls for you to kind of trade in some of the lower things that you may like to interface with in order for you to trade in for a better option of what it is that you can achieve in your life with the cheat codes, if you will. Doesn't that make sense? So I hope that you guys will really, really understand that. And the Sequence of Power seminar, when we go to London, I don't know if I'm going to count that as the third because it's in another country, or if I will do 2 or 3 more Sequence of Power before we retire it forever. The only people who will get Sequence of Power after that will be people who are in the Baldr Chronos program. And that will be it. When these Sequence of Power are retired, trust me when I tell you, they will not see the planet again. I will tell you why. Because when the gods have allowed humans to borrow their energy and to be present so that humans can use their power, they don't want to interfere with the natural balance of the planet. As I've said before, if you guys know about feng shui, if you know about energies is something that I know a great deal about. And if you're living in squalor and you're living in clutter, it's going to affect the way that you think. It's going to affect the way that you manifest. I made a video called Clean Up Your Messy Life. Check that video out. But energetically, our planet is extremely cluttered. And when I say that, there are pockets of power that belong to an imbalanced group of people and non-people. So those energies have to be dispersed. But because they're not really ready to be dispersed yet, the gods have allowed humans to take some of their powers and change the energy of some of the feng shui that is really impeding some of the movement of the planet. Like I said before, the planet is moving at an alarming rate closer to the center of the galaxy. And it's really, really important for people to take their positions in being people who are part of the movement of Galighticus so that we can help to free up the planet. Right? So that is a very, very noble cause. The first questions, I'm going to have to mark these off so I don't lose count, okay? This first question comes from Charles Lee on Facebook. And Charles Lee asks, Sri Master Gano Grills, does soulmate have the same divine parent? You're asking if soulmates have the same divine parents. Sometimes they do. And because they have the same divine parents, if someone is 50 years old, they might gravitate towards someone who is 45 to 55 because they have someone of the same reference. And when you have the same energy signatures, you're going to gravitate more towards, and this is for evolved people, right? An evolved soul will gravitate more towards someone who is more energetically compatible with them. And usually how that shows itself, it shows itself with ease and flow of affinity when you first meet each other. It's very easy to be around that person. You guys don't argue very much. You guys like the same things. You guys will laugh at the same things. My daughter, Mackie, my oldest daughter, we go to a movie or we do something and we laugh at the same exact moment, the same exact way. And I remember when she was first born, I held her in my left hand. I'll never forget it. And, she was that little. She was 7 pounds and 21 ounces, I believe. No, not 21 ounces. She was 7 pounds and 14 ounces. And I held her in my left hand and I looked at her and she looked at me. And it was the best feeling in the world. I couldn't describe how powerful it was seeing my very first child and just acknowledging that. So my daughter and I, we have a very, very similar sense of humor. You can't get us together because we're going to be chuckling it up and laughing really loud. And for the guys that know me, I love to laugh. So when you guys have the same soul material and you guys get along really, really well, a lot of times it will be because you have the same divine parents. And that is not an uncommon thing. You will find that enclaves of people, civilizations that have left this world, a lot of times that has been orchestrated by the divinities that they belong to. What I mean when I say that is that the divine parent will do something to sponsor an entire group of people to leave this world and go to a higher octave of creation that will not be once where they dwelled. And that is not something that's uncommon. So if you look at a lot of the civilizations that have been on our world, a lot of civilizations just vanished. They just left. They had the help of their divine parents who petitioned certain councils that govern over the power of the universe in order to do that. And I hope that answers your question, Charles. The next question comes from Official 5-Star on Instagram. And this is pretty lengthy. He says, Dear Sri Master Gano, my question is, does the act of one burning ancestor money and making regular offerings to one's lineage also help to liberate family members who are alive from spirit of lack and negative spiritual credit unbeknownst to them? Yes, it does. Thank you. By the way, I had a dream recording, very good, last week in which you took me out of my body and brought me to a class in the ethers, just one of the many times. I remember you telling me to eliminate doubt from my consciousness, and then you stuck your hand in my back and grabbed my spine and shook it violently. Felt like my spine was shaking at 100 miles an hour. Shortly after, I saw LordThoth in his Atlantean form looking at me. His eyes were covered by a golden blanket of some sort. However, I know that Lord Ganesha is my divine father already, but does this mean LordThoth as well? Thank you. Good question. Okay, so I asked Official 5-Star to pose this question on my Facebook for various reasons. It's a little premature to answer that question in public, but one of the things I will say is to answer that question in short is, what do you think? And I'll leave it there. Okay, I'm going to check that off as an answer. Don't get mad, guys. That's the second question. An Official 5-Star, I want you to pose that question so that there are people that may think that I'm making this stuff up. I'm not that good. I can't make this stuff up. I can't make up the hundreds and hundreds, maybe into the thousands of testimonies and dreams and visions and occurrences and miracles and hypernatural experiences that people have that are in regards to the effect that the movement of Galighticus has on the planet. It's a very real thing. So, and maybe some of my students can inbox you and talk to you about that as well. Okay. This is another question that comes from, am I going to answer this? Okay, Monique George, I'm going to check this off as question number 3 so we don't lose track. Monique George on Facebook asks, is there a minimum age for cord cutting? Can babies and kids get their cords cut? I am assuming that some come into this world with past life attachments, or is it best reserved for adults? Thoughts? SMGG. Okay, so Monique George, I don't allow children or babies to get their cords cut. They do not need to have their cords cut. They are too young. The kundalinis of children are actually activated. How do you know that? When you see the grandma yelling at her son, Bobby, put on your coat, boy, it's cold out there. Adults, grandparents, aunties, and uncles, You need to understand that children do not feel the ravages of the cold because their inner heat is completely activated. They're not going to get sick. They're not going to get a cold unless they catch the antibodies that create the equation of disease within the body. But most of the time, they will be just fine. So if they don't want to eat, it is because their kundalini is actually repairing their system. So don't let them eat. If they don't want to eat for 2 or 3 days, they will be fine. If they lose a little weight, they're not going to starve themselves to death. We have to stop blocking and impeding our children from their natural homeostasis that they bring into this life. And I'll go into a lot more detail if you guys want me to during the seminar. But that's the long and short of it. We don't need to cut cords from children because children don't have cords. They may have some memories from past life, and that's why they have past life Reiki. Remember, you bring in your issues from the past life to teach you to get to your north node. You want to ascend to your true north in this life by bringing in the challenges that you did not master in the last life or lifetimes. And if you don't do that, you won't have the opportunity to close down some of the timelines that you still have open within your own consciousness. Okay, that's how it works. When you get to an age past 21 and you want to have your cords cut, or if you want to have Kundalini Reiki, which actually has one of the modalities that allow you to arrest the past lives. When we get to past lives, and for all of you hundreds of people that have been activated by me, there's always at least one person that when they get to past life Reiki, they get very emotional. There are a lot of people that are trembling. There are a lot of people that are weeping. Some people have had to hit the floor and shake violently in the fetal position because some of the virulent memories that are associated with some of the heartbreak, hardships, and devastation of past lifetimes is actually being attenuated. And for a brief moment, that window begins to open up energetically, and the perception of past life can be quite devastating, quite emotional. And people need to purge that horror out of their consciousness once and for all. So people are not going crazy. When you hear people that are in our Kundalini activations, whether it's birth trauma or past life Reiki, the body and the consciousness knows what it's doing. And this is the reason why we do this. And we wipe the front and we flick the residual crystals at the end before we balance all and release our client. Okay? So I hope that answers your question.